Okay, I wanted to make this quick video for you. I'm not sure how quick it will actually be, but on creating a template from scratch. So I'm going to take you through the entire process that I go through when building a new template. And you can use the same information for editing an existing template. But if you're looking to create your own one, then this is how you would do it. So the first thing to do is create your template name. So I just put that in here. Then choose the layout type that you want. Now we have top menu, left menu, and right menu layouts at the current moment. My favorite is the top menu, so I'm just going to stick with that. And then we're going to create template. Now, as you can see, this is just opening up. What I'm going to do is just move this a little bit up. There you go. So down. So I can fit that into the screen for you. Now, there's a few things to notice about this. This is just a simple blank base template to start working from. And you can see here it opens up, and we have a variable called X factor. Now X factor is simply the default width that we've assigned to the header, the menu width, the content width, the page width, etc. And so if I was to change this, if I were to make that 980, you can see that the whole template becomes wider. Now we have a couple of different elements on this page. You can see here we have the drag and drop toolbar, and we'll be adding more functionality into this. But this enables you to drag and drop text blocks onto here, images, login boxes, that type of thing. On the opposite side, we have our display element, and this is this gives us the functionality to be able to edit the way that the different parts of this page look. Now, if you see here, I can actually hover over the different parts. So you can see here, I'm hovered over menu, and if you look at the menu, it's now highlighted blue. So you can see the area that's being affected by this. If I go over the content area, you can see the content area highlights blue. And the page, it's the whole page area, and the whole screen, as you can see, the whole screen area. So if you're not sure, you can quickly get a good idea about what area that you'll be affecting simply by hovering over the different sort of titles here. Now you can also expand this out, and this will give you additional commands to be able to change the design of the page. So to give you an example here, you can see I'm currently selected on whole screen, and let's just add a background color to the whole screen. So if I drag and drop background, you can see that it starts off as transparent by default, and I can go in, I can click this, and I can then choose a color to use as a background color. And you can see at the moment this whole page turns this color here. Now, if you're wondering what this color palette is, well, if I click on here and I choose to use color palette, at the moment it's not going to do much, because if you look up here under color palette, I don't have one selected. But if I just choose a color palette from here, you can see now, instead of giving me the various choices, being able to assign a specific color, what I can choose is to define a color palette option, and in this case it's C3. So that means now if I change the color palette to say brown, it still stays at C3, but now it's C3 under the brown palette. Now, if you're designing your own templates, generally speaking, well, you may choose to use a color palette just so you've got a color palette to work from. But this is particularly important for designers wanting flexibility with their designs for other people to be able to change. So most of the templates that we're currently designing, we're trying to build them all around this color palette system, so that if you decide to want to use an existing template, but you don't like the color scheme, then you can simply come in and choose a new color scheme. And if we go into settings, you can see here we have the ability to either edit an existing color palette, or we can just create and add our own new one. And so we can build our own color palette for this particular design. Okay, so as you can see, now we have a blue background, but the actual page itself is currently blue, which we don't want. We'd want a white page. So we have two choices. We could either make the actual page area, that's this area here, we can drag and drop that. We can make that white, or we could, that's then making the header white here as well. Or we could just choose this content area and only make that white. For this particular template that I'm about to build, I'm not sure. I haven't really got an idea of what I'm going to create yet. I'm just doing this completely on the fly. So let's just go with leaving it as it is, and we're going to make the entire background white. So the next thing that I'm going to do is to try and create this to look a little bit more like a Web 2.0 sort of style template. So I'm going to want to use some corner rounding here. So I'll just drag and drop. Now you will notice if I drag and drop corner rounding below this red box, it doesn't do anything. I have to drag it inside the selected area, inside that dotted red line. And now I can start modifying this. So let's make the corner rounding quite big. We'll go with 15. Go with 15, and you can see this is top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right, and you can see here that that's now giving me the corner rounding. Now if I want to hide this box here just so I can get a better view of what I'm doing, I can just simply show, drag and drop here. I can hide it, and now that's hidden from view. I don't need that at the moment. You can see that this template has some default text inside it and some default components to the template. Now these are just example menu items and example text inside the page. The header text is, this is the tag that we use, that if somebody were to use the fill in the header text option inside the options area when creating a template, or sorry, when creating a site, then this is the area that will replace the headline for the page or headline for the site, and same with the sub headline. And if they upload a logo, then this is where the logo will display. If you're creating your own template from scratch, you don't need to use these tags. If you're going to use a fixed headline or a fixed sub headline, you can just create them inside the template. It just means they won't be editable from within the normal site setup area. This is just hard coding them into the actual page. Now, so let's move on with this design. I'm going to go in and add some space, some margin, which is simply the spacing around this area. So if you remember the area, if I hover over it, the page layout is just this area that I'm working on here. And so if I add some space at the top, maybe about 9 pixels, you can see the page moves down 9 pixels, and it just gives me that little bit of breathing room at the top to make the site look a little nicer. And again, I would probably do the same at the bottom, but this time maybe add about 36 pixels at the bottom. If I scroll down, you can see here that's just going to give me a little bit of space at the bottom of the template to make it look a bit better. Now, we could, if we wanted to, add some drop shadow. That's very popular, of course, on a lot of designs now. Now, if I add some drop shadow, just by default, it's coming in at CE1. But I generally find, to be honest, if we go across here, a medium shade of grey usually works quite well for most drop shadows. Now, at the moment, there's no size to it, so I would need to add, let's go with 15 pixels again, some drop shadow size, and there you can see. And this is just the spacing from the top and the left-hand side. So at the moment, you can see we've got an even drop shadow, and I might just choose to add like maybe 2 pixel space. You can see it just moves it down 2 pixels there, and at the bottom we get a stronger shadow. Now in this particular design, I'm not sure that I actually want to use a drop shadow, so I'm just going to delete this particular style from my page. So that was as easy as that. I might choose to use a border. So if I drag and drop a border on here, you can see at the moment it's the same as the background color, so that doesn't really work for us. But we could choose to use a different border color, and then we could, this is left, top, right, and bottom. So I could go in and maybe use a 3 pixel border all the way around, and that just helps bring the page out. And next, we're going to want to try and create some space for the actual content here. So if I go into content, one of the worst things you can do is to have the text push right up against a border like this. So I'm going to add in padding. Now padding is the opposite to margin. That's the spacing inside this area between the edge. So if you remember that the margin was on the outside, well, padding is on the inside. Now, I like to use quite a heavy margin. Again, I usually use either around 27 to 36 pixels, and on both sides, of course. So now we've got that space on the left and the right hand side. The problem is that because the width is the same size as the width of the template, you can see that it's not fitting in properly anymore. So what we need to do is we actually need to use minus. If you want to make it minus or plus, I'm sorry, but the way the coding is, we have to use a double minus or a double plus. But so we just add the 2 widths that we've added onto this extra spacing here. So that's going to be 72 pixels. So if I do minus 72 pixels, now you can see the content fits perfectly in, because we have the X factor width, which was 980, minus 72, which is 36 plus 36 pixels. So this is giving us the same width, basically. This is giving us the perfect width for this particular template. So hopefully that makes sense. That's about as complicated as the site design gets, really. Next, we're going to want to modify the actual text content itself. So if I add in the text option, you can see it's automatically given me the color palette C1. Well, if I just deselect color palette, the default color is black, which is what I want. So now I've got black text. The next thing is to check my font, which is Arial. That's great, but the font size I'd like to be a bit bigger, maybe Arial size 16. And you can start seeing that this is a lot clearer, a lot easier to read. Now I'm also going to want to add some line spacing. You can see by default the normal spacing between the lines of text here makes it a little tricky to read. So if we go text advanced option, you can see here I can set the alignment, which is left, that's fine, but I can also set line height, and I'm going to set that to about 1.4. And now you can see that this is much easier to read. Gives a lot more clarity on the page, and that's what we're looking for. So it's starting to come together. However, what we are going to want to do next is to look at this menu, because at the moment the menu is quite ugly. So if we click on menu, you can see the menu is broken down into 3 options. We have menu bar, top level menu, and sub level menu. So the menu bar is the actual background, or the bar here, to the menu area. If I hover over the menu, you can see that that area there is essentially the menu bar. Top level menu is the actual items inside the menu bar, and sub level menu are the daughter pages, or these drop down menus here. So if we start to edit this, you'll notice that there's also the option called display menu. Well, if you deselect that, it'll hide it. And the way that this works is just so that you can preview how your site is going to look if you use this template in a sales page where there is no top menu. So in a website, an information site, or a membership site where you have this top level menu, then this is how it's going to look. If you were to use the same template in a sales funnel where there is no menu structure, then this is how it's going to look. And of course, you could use the same template for both your sales pages and your content area or information site, or just one or the other. It's entirely up to you. But this here is simply a preview option so that you can see how it's going to look in both situations. So let's add, I don't know what we're going to do with this. Perhaps we can add a background color to the, go to, menu bar. We'll add a background color. And again, we can just choose one of our color palette colors here. And now you can see we've got this bar going across. I might want to add in some border to that. So if I add a border on, then I can choose the border color, perhaps the same border that we've used for the border on the page. Now on the left, if I make this 0 pixels, and on the right, I make that 0 pixels, you can see now I've got a perfect bar that goes across. And if I wanted to, I could make this 2 and 2. So it just sort of matches the overall template design a little bit more. The next thing that I could do then is to focus on the actual design of the text here. So if we bring in the focus on the actual top level menu, and we bring in text, font, in this case, font. You can see it's changed the color and the design of that font. So I kind of like Tahoma for menus, just a personal thing. Now font size, maybe about 16 could work quite well. And if we make the default color a lot darker, there we go, it can stand out a bit more. And then we have the hover color here. So if I make the hover color something maybe like the C9, so it should, I might want just a bit more definition in the hover. We could maybe try the C4. Yeah, that could work. Just to give it some kind of clarity. Now you could make the background color hover change if you wanted to. You could put a background image in there. There's all sorts of things you could do to make that button highlight when you hover over it. Overall though, that's fine. Maybe we could make the text bolder just to make it stand out. There we go. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is to add some padding around that, and maybe about 9 pixels on the left, 9 pixels on the right, and that gives us a nice even spacing in the menu. And at the top, let's try about 7 pixels, see what that works out at. Not too bad, maybe a little bit low. 6 in there, so let's try 5. Yep, pretty much perfect. There we go. So now I've got a menu that's starting to look pretty reasonable. Now what else can I do with this? Well, obviously the submenu needs some work, because at the moment the submenu looks pretty bad. By default, it's going to take the same text as the main menu. However, you can customize the submenu text if you want to. The first thing we're going to want to do is definitely add a background color to that. And there you go. So you can see here, if I make this C3 and C3. No, it's not C3, is it? Sorry, it's C2. I just wanted it to match with the top menu. Now you can see here, it's actually going to change the color of the background when I hover, because I have a C3 here. That's fine. Now submenu position is the position that it's at. Now you can see here it's a little bit high. 30 pixels is not quite enough, so I'll try 34, see where that places it. Okay, so now you can see that the submenu is perhaps just a little bit low. I've got a couple of pixels white space. That might be part of your design, that's fine. I'm just going to move it up a little bit, so 32 might be perfect. There we go. And now I've got my submenu design. And as I say, I can go in and tweak this as much as I like. I could add a border. Now a border is going to affect each page, each menu item, or I can have a frame border color that works for the whole of the drop down. So if we use C4 border again, and for the left, if I go with 2, I don't need a top border because it already has one, or it'll look like it already has one. There we go. Now actually I'm going to need one because I forgot on the drop down menus. I'm going to want that top border as well, so I'll just add the 2 pixels in there as well. And you can see here now I've got a double up on the border height here. So what I'm going to do is, if I come back and maybe with that border actually 30 pixels, yeah, 30 pixels is ideal. Now the other thing I'm going to want to do is top menu, sorry, let's have a look, sub-level menu, the height of each of these blocks. Here, if you look down, it looks a bit high to me. So I'm just going to make that maybe about 27 pixels. Or I could just do auto. And now you can see it's collapsed it down to the size of the text. In which case now I can go in and use my padding. If I add in my cell padding and do my left 9, my right 9, top as being about 7 and bottom as being about 7. There we go. That's created a much nicer spacing inside the drop-down menus. Now, what else do we want to do for this particular design? You can see here the Powered by FusionHQ link. If I just move that down, I can move it down below the menu. Actually, this is only 36 here. If I go back to page layout, and we look for our space, there we go, margin at the bottom. I'm going to I might just make that about, let's go with around 72. So I've got a bit more space there. Now what I can do is I can bring this down. This is my fixed menu, my fixed pages menu. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring that underneath the actual template design. Now the footer, you can see here, this is the footer space. I better remove that now. So the height at the moment is quite high. I only want maybe about 10 pixels. No, let's go with about 20 pixels. So there we go, just to give a bit of space at the bottom. Now I can get the correct positioning for my fixed pages at the bottom and my Powered by link at the bottom. And remember, if I click this, it's just going to make sure that it's centered. Now, the default template in here at the moment, I don't like the full stop after the link. We don't need that. And I'm just going to change the text size on this to make it a bit smaller. You can delete it completely if you want to. That's entirely up to you. However, the Powered by FusionHQ link actually has your FusionHQ affiliate link in there. And we see quite a few of our users making affiliate commission sales from people clicking on this link. So it does work. And so it's not bad to leave in there if you want to have the opportunity to make a bit of extra affiliate income. Okay, so the fixed pages, just to remind you, this is the fixed page menu. That's the things like the contact us, earnings disclaimer, privacy policies, etc. That's where this menu is going to show up. And you can just sort of clarify or define the design of that in here, those page links. But I'm happy with the way that it is at the moment. The next thing we want to do is look at the header and see if we can do something with this particular space up here. Now, there's a few different things you could do. If I just go into header and add in a background image, for example, and I'm just going to have a look in here. Now, I need to browse for a file. Now, here's some images that I've got that I've already created from different designs. And okay, let's just take this fade here. Now, this is just a fade. All of these PNG files that I've created here are fades or background images that are just grayscale with transparency. And the reason I've done them that way is so that they will work with whatever template color that I use. And that's entirely up to you. You know, if you're creating a fixed template, you don't need to use PNGs with transparency fades. You can just use whatever colors that you want to use, because you're not trying to make them adaptable to different color palettes. But if you're trying to make something work with different color palettes, then these grayscale fades with a transparency to allow the color underneath to show through work very well. So I'm just going to upload that and you'll maybe see what I mean. So there you go. Now I've got a grayscale fade here. That's just simply the basic image that I used. If I wanted to, what I could do is add a background color here. So you can see if I was to choose, let's say C5 as a background color, then that background color is showing through. And the fade is over the top, so you can see I've actually got this fade on my color. And if I was to use a lighter one, then that works nicely. You can see here, because the header is above the page layout is below, and we put the corners on the page, we're getting these square corners. Well, the way to fix that is to simply add corner rounding onto here. And we only need to worry about the top left and the top right. So top left and top right, we just put 15 inside there. And you can see that that's now rounded these corners off. Unfortunately, due to the way that the sort of system works, none of this is an exact science. The way that it handles the different corners isn't always exactly the same. So sometimes you might need to just play around with it like this, so that it comes under that border. And so I've just got slightly less corner rounding, but essentially it looks right. Because of that external border. Then that's because what we're using is CSS to define all of this. Okay, so that's now got our major template design. What you could do if you wanted to is, rather than worrying about dragging and dropping, uploading logos inside, if this is the template to your site and it's going to be your site, it's fixed, it's your design, we can just delete these boxes if we want to. And now what I can do is drag and drop an image onto the header for our logo. And there we go. I've got a bunch of different images in here. So, okay, let's just take the, is this a PNG? Yeah, this might well work. There we go. So let's just assume that was your company logo. Now you could drag and drop that in there, and hopefully you would make it the right size, but I'm just going to cheat and resize that image for the moment in there. And then you can just position it exactly how or where you want it inside the header. So you can see that works very well. Now for header text, you have to remember when designing web templates, you need to use text that is compatible on all of the different computers, which means you're fairly limited to your choice of fonts. Now you can see here we have used some of the Google fonts that will give you a greater range. So let's take Luckiest Guy and use a font size that's a bit larger for a headline. Go up to 48. And if we wanted to, we could define the font color here. We'll just go with a dark gray and click OK. So that's given us a funky looking font. Now the thing to take notice of though is that these Google fonts aren't 100% reliable. Some browsers still don't display them correctly, so it's not going to work 100% of the time. The only way that you can guarantee at this point in time getting a perfect funky looking font is to make it an image, and that's simply, the only way to do that is make it in something like Photoshop and then upload it as a graphic inside the headline. Remember, if you're going to do that, make sure that you label the image correctly when you upload, or give it a good file name, so when you bring it into the template, that it's at least an SEO optimized header name, image name. If you're not worried about SEO, then don't worry. But if the site is going to be used for SEO, then generally speaking, text does work better. So we would try and go with something like this, where it will at least look really nice most of the time. And when it doesn't, it's not the end of the world, but at least it's being found. Okay, so at the moment we have a template that is looking reasonably respectable. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's hardly the best design in the world, but just to give you a few more design tips. So what don't I like about this template right now? Just from a very simplistic view, I don't like the fact that this text is over here and this text is over here. If we're looking to try and design a template well, we should always be looking to try and create pixel alignment. Now we know this spacing here is 36. We know that this spacing here is 9. Because if you remember, I set the left and right spacing on the header text, on the menu text as 9 pixels, and I set the spacing, left and right spacing on the content text as 36. So what do I need to do? Well, 36 minus 9 is going to leave me with, just on my head, about 27. So I need to add an additional 27 pixels spacing here on the menu. So if I go to menu bar and I add margin, and on the left we set this as 27, you can see what it's done is it's moved the entire bar across, and that's not what we want to do. So I'm going to delete that. And sometimes, if you're not sure, just playing around with it, you will see whether that's the correct solution or not. However, if we use the top menu and we do the same thing, we choose the margin and we choose 27 pixels. Now it's aligned this perfectly for us. So that's ideal. Now we do have a higher spacing here though, so that's not good. So this is the thing you have to remember. The way CSS works is sometimes you need to find the solution that's going to not break something else, not break another part of the design. So from here, what I'm going to do is delete the margin area here. So I've got some, I've got a couple of different options that I could work with here to try and get the effect that I'm looking for. And maybe just the easiest is going to be to make the left-hand side 36 and see if this works. Because like I say, yeah, that's not too bad. That gives me basically the result that I want. Just be aware that these the preview mode at the moment inside the template editor, the drop-down menus look a bit cramped. They actually work a lot better on the real site than they do inside the editor. Again, we're trying to work on perfecting each of these different things, but you just have to be aware that there are a couple of limitations in terms of the way that things are viewed or displayed. So as you can see, I'm not an expert in template design. I have a good understanding of some of the basic fundamentals, and that's what I try and work with. And I don't understand sometimes if I move that over, you can see that just gives a bit better spacing and a bit better alignment. I don't always know what's going to work and what's going to look best and what's not. But just simply by experimenting and playing around, you will soon get a feel for how things are going to look. And sometimes you just have to play to try and find the solution that you're looking for to get the effect that you want. Now, with the menu, for example, this top menu, I could also drag and drop a background image into here. And if I browse, then I have, okay, menu 2. This is one that I made for a different template again. So I'm just going to upload that. And there you go. Now I've got a kind of a menu effect, if you will. Now this particular design is designed to be a bit wider. So again, now you can see that I'm going to have to make a few alterations to this design to make that particular template work a little bit better. So perhaps if I go to top menu, and what I can do is then bring that spacing down a bit, so just to center that text, that's good. And on the sub menu, just to add the sub menu position, it's going to add an extra couple of pixels. No, I need to add. Okay, now let's have a look and see what else we might be able to do with this. So if I go to whole screen and we drag and drop a background image onto the whole screen, now I can again browse for an image to use. If I go down and I could just use a simple straight fade in here. I'm just going to upload that. Now, what I want to show you is how to use this correctly. So you can see at the moment, this is repeating horizontally and it's repeating vertically, which is probably not good for a background image. So what I can do in here is go in and just repeat X, which is horizontal. So now I've got that. You can see it stops here and turns into just my background color. Now what I can do is also prevent that from scrolling and make that fixed. So now when I scroll, that doesn't move. So what I would try and then do is just simply to match this bottom color with the background color here, which I think C2 would be a bit closer. It's not going to work because of course it's going to keep changing this color in this sort of situation. This particular background fade isn't the best because I've actually taken it from white to dark rather than from completely transparent to a darker fade. So again, don't worry about that. That's probably a bit more advanced in terms of design for this particular call, but I just wanted to show you the way that you can handle the background repeat. So another one that I could look at is maybe taking one of these, these background designs, and we could throw in this as a background. Now you can see it's only repeating horizontally, so I would want it repeat everywhere. And again, now you can see, because we've still got it fixed, the actual page appears to scroll over the top of the background. If I put it onto scroll, then you can see the background actually scrolls with the page. So it depends on the design that you've got, or personal preference on how you might want that to work. In this particular design or this particular template, I don't really want any background at all. So I'm just going to delete that, but at least you know how to use that. Now, some other things to take note of, I guess, is the custom styles. So under custom styles, we can actually define the links on the page. Sorry, I'll just hide that now. And so you can see here we can, for example, remove the underline. You can change this. Maybe we can make that so it makes links as bolded by default. We've also got the header tag styles in here, so you can go in and you can customize header 1, header 2. I can bring in header 1 there. So you can set the header tags to work and give them definitions in here if you want to, as creating a template theme. I think that's probably enough for this particular demonstration. You can see here I can hide this box here, hide the CSS editor, so we can have a look at our finished design. We can play around with these color palettes if we wanted to. You can see everything flicks now and changes. Okay, so one of the things that I might want to do on this design is to actually set the content area as white rather than being C1 as defined in the page area. So in here I can now add background color and take that off, and we can just set that in here, or you can see you can define the actual hex number in here if you know what the number is that you want. So white is FFF, FFF, and there we have a nice white page. You can see the footer is defined as the C1, that's fine. So now if I change these different design colors, you can see the whole page changes with it to suit whatever color palette. And as I said, I can make a custom palette if I wanted to. But that's pretty much it in terms of designing a template from beginning to end. Once I'm done, all I need to do is click save, and that's pretty much it. We have a brand new template.